So I could have done this video around the deadline, but I'm doing it now. Will Kyle Lowry be on the Raptors next season? There's a few possibilities. I mean, he's an unrestricted free agent, so anyone who's got cap space or can create cap space can go for him. There's the possibility of a sign-and trade. He could, of course, just stay with the Raptors. So we'll see. I mean, the biggest thing is what Lowry wants. He's got the power here. If he wants to sign somewhere else, he can do it. He can also just choose to be with the Raptors no matter what. Now, there are cap things between cap holds and all that stuff, but one thing is also, what does Masai want? Does Masai want to stay with the Raptors? I imagine that plays a part in all of this as well. Anyway, as far as teams who can get cap space, the obvious one is Miami, of course. They've got Dragic and Iguodala's team options. If they decline both of those, then that gives them pretty much all the money you'd need to make an offer at Lowry. Now, at the deadline, I said that I thought it was fine that they did not trade Tyler Hero for Lowry. I still believe that, even if Hero has not been too good lately. I just believe that guy can give you 17 a game in a playoff series right now if he gets his season back on track. Besides Miami, the most exciting team with cap space for Lowry to me is the Knicks. Now, the two big moves the Knicks have coming up for their own books are Julius Randle's extension, which I assume would begin in 2023, and then RJ Barrett's extension, which would begin in 2024. And they can definitely afford Lowry this offseason, but it's also a matter of keeping as many of your options open as possible, so we'd have to see what they'd want to do there. But of course, none of that matters if Kyle Lowry does not want to go to the Knicks. Now, I think there's another conversation about, well, should the Raptors even bother keeping Lowry because their other guys are a bit younger and, lining up timelines and getting something for him versus maximizing your chances of maybe making the second round or the conference finals over the next couple of years. I mean, to me, that sounds pretty good. I know some people have the idea of just like, if you're not a title contender, why bother? I mean, I get people telling me all the time the Blazers should blow it up, which I never agree with at all. And I have the same opinion of this Raptors team. Like, there's nothing wrong with bringing Kyle Lowry back and just being good for a couple more years, especially because they still have some guys who, to me, have not hit their ceilings between OG, Gary Trent, maybe Siakam, maybe Van Fleet, Malachi Flynn as well. To throw some cap mumbo-jumbo at you, Kyle Lowry's cap hold is really big, $43 million to be exact. So even if they decline Hood and Baines and whatever else, they don't have enough money to do anything. They do still have Gary Trent's restricted free agency, and that'll be interesting because he's probably going to get like a $17 million offer from somebody. We'll have to see if they want to match that. But as far as giving themselves room to make any type of move, they would have to renounce Lowry, which means he would be gone. Now, let's say Lowry re-signs for $20 million or something. That would give him some room to do something. It wouldn't be anything too wild, but you could get somebody with like a mid-level. Or maybe they'd have a little bit of cap space, but still Gary Trent's restricted free agency kind of does away with most of that, which they're fine with. I imagine they look at him as a long-term option. Now, the other thing to think about would be more sign-and-trade teams, in my opinion, with Lowry. Of course, again, Lowry has to decide what he wants. He's got the power here, but if it was going to be Philly, it would have to be George Hill and Seth Curry getting moved because Danny Green's expiring and Mike Scott's expiring. Well, they're expiring. They're done after the season. Maybe you could have Korkmaz's contract be its own sign and trade going to the Raptors, so it's like George Hill, Seth Curry, Korkmaz for Lowry. I imagine the Raptors would still want Maxey or Thibault or both, which I imagine is a no-go for the Sixers. I could actually picture Chicago wanting a Lowry sign and trade, but if Lowry wouldn't want to go there, then it doesn't matter. But they actually could put a move together between like Kobe White and whatever else. I imagine the Lakers would also be interested in a Lowry sign and trade, and there's probably a more decent chance he would want to go there than other teams. I imagine the main guy going back to Toronto would be Schroeder. We'd have to see there. I don't know. I mean, I could name sign and trade teams all day. To think about the Raptors just next season, I guess. Again, if Lowry's completely gone and they don't sign Gary Trent, then they could have cap space to get somebody. But it's not as if this free agent class is that loaded. I mean, is Kawhi going to come back to the Raptors? Probably not. So they're not too far off from the team they're going to be. And given this season, between the amount of guys that they've had miss games and having to be in Florida for their whole season, I feel like you can view this year as just the understandable season from hell, and next year they can get back to being, 48-win team, potentially a little more if things bounce their way. Maybe Gary Trent just goes to a different level as a player. There's still the potential of OG and Siakam and maybe Malachi Flynn popping off into something. The other thing here, too, is the Raptors still have all of their draft picks, so there's a chance they just get somebody good in the draft over the next couple years. They can also make moves themselves to get better. I mean, Chris Boucher is going to be on an expiring next year. He's a good player. There's reason to hold on to him, but if you could put his contract together with some of these smaller deals, you could get yourself a pretty alright guy, or even a Van Fleet or a Siakam if someone that good becomes available. So I just don't think re-signing Lowry puts them in this position of, oh no, we can't do anything else. They still have picks. They still have young guys. And to me, it's still good for them if Lowry's around. But again, Lowry's got the power. If he doesn't want to be around, then he's not going to be around. So we'd have to see what he wants, again, for the 9 millionth time. To look at the rest of this season for him, I mean, maybe they get the play-in, maybe they don't. The play-in tournament could be pretty damn exciting in the East. I mean, you're talking about maybe the Raptors. You got Beal and Westbrook with the Wizards. You've got the Pacers, who can be pretty steady if they're healthy. LaMelo is back with the Hornets, and you've got Miami. And the Knicks, as well as the Celtics, are not far away from the play-in, although they've got a little bit of breathing room. So you could have some pretty respectable teams in there, and the Raptors would certainly be kind of frightening for whoever really wants to get the 7th or 8th seeds. The other thing is the Raptors could get a lottery pick this offseason, which, hey, you know what? It's not often that you have a team that's talented, that has a weird down year, and as a result can get the, 10th pick in the draft or wherever it may go. And hey, if the Raptors end up picking the next season version of Tyrese Halliburton around number 10, then that would be massive for them going forward, and that's the type of guy who could help them as they still have Lowry, if, again, Lowry wants to be there. So the point that I'm getting at is I can picture it now, somebody being like, well, why is Lowry even going to be on the team, blah, 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 blah. Listen, man, you could be right, depending on if the Raptors can get a haul in return for him, but there's nothing wrong with just being good while your young guys are still there and whatever. If I had to make a prediction, I actually think Lowry will be on the Raptors next season. Maybe I just want that more than anything, but yeah.